But right now, I'm super excited for this. We're going to move on to the final session. So we have the privilege of having two of Flight Centre's digital workplace joining us. So this is awesome. So Flight Centre are actually one of the largest travel agency groups. They've got, I think, more than 2,000 leisure, corporate, and wholesale businesses, operate 23 offices, 11 countries. Definitely somewhere I'm going to be spending most of my time when we can all travel again. So yeah, super excited to welcome Nick and Donna. They've been a partner with Workplace since, I think, 2017. So a massive thank you for the partnership, guys. It's really appreciated. Nick and Donna are going to share how Workplace has been essential in helping Flight Centre maintain this employee experience and transition seamlessly into kind of this new norm. So Nick, Donna, amazing to see you guys. Thanks for being here. Last year was obviously super tough for everyone, but the travel industry was particularly hard hit. How are things? Is travel in the US picking up again?
Yeah. Travel in the US is starting to pick up. People are definitely finding that need. You know, we've been cooped up for so long. As many of you know, we're really pulling ahead with the vaccination process, so that's putting a lot of people's minds at ease. And we are seeing, I'd say over the last month, we've really started to see the uptake and people just dying to get out, get away, wherever they can. So that's a very positive sign for everything.
Awesome. I'm one of those people.
I don't think it's going quite as well in Canada. But we're looking to our neighbours, and hopefully things will improve drastically over the coming months.
Awesome stuff. Well, I will leave it to you guys. I'll pop back in to relay some of the questions. If, as Nick and Donna are going through the presentation, if anyone has questions, please pop them into the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we run those through with Donna and Nick at the end of the session. So yeah, over to you guys.
Great. Yeah. So as mentioned, we are a large global travel company. We are all over the world. Our main headquarters are in Australia, and our mission is honestly opening up the world to those who want to see it. That is everything we do in Flight Centre is based on that premise, is that we want to show everyone who wants to see the world. Next slide, please. So Flight Centre brands globally, as you can see right there on the map, all of the different countries that we have businesses in. Again, Australia is the largest, and all of you might not be familiar with some of those businesses, but here in the US and Canada, businesses that all of you might have heard of, depending on where you sit, would be in Canada, just Flight Centre. As far as retail offices, there are many retail offices across the country. In the US, we were Liberty Travel. So anybody who's familiar on the East Coast, you might have seen or booked with in the past, Liberty Travel. We are owned by Flight Centre, and if you booked with other travel agencies, they might have booked through GoGo Tours, and so your trip might have been done through GoGo Tours. And that we operate under the Flight Centre umbrella. As far as corporate goes, we have Corporate Traveler. So many of you might have traveled for corporate reasons. Corporate Traveler is our company that does small to mid-sized businesses. And then we have FCM Travel Solutions, which does our very large corporations, multinational corporations, and they also have an event planning section. So they also have a division that does meetings and events for corporate. And that's who we are. So over to Nick, next slide, and Nick's going to take it from here.
Thanks, Donna. So what's the structure of the slides today? So the first slide or use case, should I say, is me talking about what hybrid was, our old normal, should I say, and how we already worked hybridly, if that's even a word, as a business. Donna will then go on and talk about the next slide, which is how we stayed engaged during the pandemic, and she'll give some examples there of furloughed employees. She'll also talk about scaling our community and our ecosystem. I know we seem to have jumped one slide ahead of ourselves, but I will then talk after Donna's kind of covered a few of our different businesses and how we've leveraged Workplace to communicate with those businesses. I'll talk about the sort of communications efficiency with what we're doing with chatbots and some techie style solutions. So yeah, you're free to jump to the next slide. Okay, cool. So working hybrid was our old normal. So really, it's a bit of a lie if I say nothing's changed. But we as an organization, as a travel company, used to move around a lot. So I guess for us, we use Workplace. I think Donna has mentioned this before. It's kind of part of our DNA, or it's ingrained in our systems. So a lot of our communications go on in Workplace, and it's not just kind of person to person or staff member to staff member. We actually start to harvest a lot of knowledge within Workplace. So the first example on the left, or the screenshot on the left, which is of a group that we have called Citizens of the World, shows you that we use this particular group as a sort of central repository of knowledge. So kind of like destination expertise, fixer knowledge, if you wish. And what this provides us, provides us with is a collective intelligence globally. So 20,000 plus people, all, we all go on holiday. We all have experiences, and kind of similar to kind of like TripAdvisor, we can kind of come into this group and we can post pictures and do reviews of where we've stayed. And then consultants or our salespeople can actually search this group or pose questions if they can't find that information very easily, and it will be answered by the entire workforce. Well, not all at the same time, obviously. And this helps us to build customers' itineraries, answer their questions on, we don't just sell them travel in the sense of, you book a flight, you pay for your hotel, but also it's like things to do when you get there. And we have another group called You Need to Taste This, which is specifically around restaurant reviews. And maybe the customer wants to know where to eat that's close by for, to their hotel or where they're staying. And that's where we can say, we've got this backstreet family-owned restaurant, right around the corner off the beaten track. And maybe you wouldn't get that ordinarily. And then, others can use this information, to help, sell our products or target our products for the future. And then there's additional services that we can provide, and I won't go into too much detail, but, chucking AI over the top of it, being able to have, customers ask, where's a child-friendly hotel in Disney or near Disneyland? Then we can do sentiment analysis, which I think Andrew had already mentioned on the previous slide, and look at the language and what the intent of what people are saying. The next little use case is really around our leaders and how they do updates. And this really helps to keep people engaged through the use of town halls. And we get representatives from various different divisional or business heads. And this example is called SWAT Live, SWAT being our leadership team. We also have our CEO or MD who basically does regular updates as well. And we can use these channels to find out how the business is doing. And like I say, we've been doing this probably since 2016, 2017, when Donna first promoted the use of Workplace at Flight Centre. But also, what are the numbers, TTV, financials, especially during COVID? How are we doing? What is the strategy? And let's speak about what's going on in our future, especially during the pandemic, and the impact, the massive impact that it's had on our business. Why is Mexico doing so well and Canada isn't? And then we have Enterprise Live, so that's analytics that we're now applying to these videos, so that we can see where people are coming from. Again, Andrew showed a slide before of some of the out of the box experience that you would get with Workplace, but you can also layer that with other products to sort of measure engagement and sort of how not to lose people halfway through some of these meetings or events. The third one on the right is an example of team updates. So the first one was kind of like a global use. The middle one was regional, and the one on the right is more kind of what we call our family. And we have this kind of family, village, tribe ethos, but I won't go into too much detail on that. We all work remotely. You know, my boss is in the US. My team is distributed across multiple cities in North America. We do the Scrum stuff that Rocky mentioned, so the stand-up sprint planning. That's a kind of example of a virtual stand-up that you've got there. This is what are we working on? What are our blockages or problems? How can people help us, get through that? What have we completed, and where do we need to recognize people? The benefits of that, it keeps us connected as a team, and we do also kind of weekly team updates, videos always switched on as well, regardless of children or dogs barking in the background. We can maintain professionalism, but also even on that note, I feel like we're kind of getting to know the real people when you see into their homes a little bit. So it kind of humanizes our work and our colleagues. Okay, Nidan, next slide.
So how did we stay connected and engaged during the pandemic? And I will say that Workplace was critical for us because, as Nick has mentioned, we did start using Workplace when at its first inception, and it's very ingrained in our DNA at this point for us as a company globally and regionally as to how we communicate. So when all of a sudden the world shut down, basically that is what happened, we did turn to Workplace to help us out because we, as many other companies, had to let go of many of our workers. And at this point, these employees, when this first happened, we, again, like everyone else, we thought, how long is everybody going to be out of work? A couple of weeks, a couple of months. No one ever suspected that it would be for as long as it is. So for us to keep, our employees very engaged with us, what's going on in the business right now, how we're recovering, we ended up getting another instance within our Workplace instance, and we called it Connect. So the screenshot in the middle that you're seeing is where it says America's Connect, but Australia had a group on that page, New Zealand had a group on that page, and what that page was for was all of our employees as they were getting furloughed. We put them into this Connect group, and again, like for Americas, it was our Mexico, US, and Canadian employees that were furloughed. They were put into this group, and every single day there was a post made by someone within the business keeping everybody up to date. They could communicate with each other, and that was very, very important to keep everyone, your spirits up and everyone feeling like they're still part of what's going on in the business. As the pandemic lasted longer, that we were not assuming would happen, and we were hoping was not going to happen, we had to change with the times, and our business, had to shrink a little to keep afloat, to keep us going through this time. And there were employees that were furloughed that eventually had to be let permanently go the longer this pandemic kept going on. So we have two groups within there, and then we have an alumni group. So we have an alumni group with all of our former employees that were permanently stood down, that want to, again, stay connected to the business. And as things turn around and start moving, we post jobs. So we have started hiring back some people, and we have started growing, as I did mention that there is a little bit of an uptake in travel here, and we could see that it is going to explode. So we have an alumni group where we moved a lot of those people into. Again, the whole idea is keeping everybody connected, and we do post job opportunities. So as jobs are coming, we're posted there, and it gives our former employees the opportunity to come back into the business. That's very important, because that was always the vision of the company, is us just saddling through, tightening up and being ready for when the turnaround happens. So that was fantastic to work with Workplace for us. Next slide, please. So again, during changing times and how we keep our whole ecosystem globally, going and communicating, we use Workplace not only on that independent model, but we use it to speak, and we use it to chat with our vendors that we deal with, and we also have an independent model. So at Flight Centre, at Liberty Travel, at Flight Centre as a whole, we have an independent model within the leisure brand, which are independent workers that work, that sell travel on their own, and they're not really they're not employees of the company. They are exactly what that is, independent travel agents. So we've started a group, and within that group, there's we started an instance with our independent model, and we opened up several groups so that this way we can interact with salespeople that are selling travel, that are doing it under the umbrella of a Flight Centre model, and we get to keep them up to date and to train. And then that particular screenshot, you can see that's a training for Australia specialists. We also have that same model of citizens of the world within the independent model. So we're able, again, to keep the community going, keep the community growing, and keep everybody engaged in the business. In the middle, you'll see that we have, this is with our corporate partners. So we have regional groups with vendors that work within our corporate brands, that we, again, can put them in this group and communicate with them on a level from Flight Centre to any of these vendors. And it's, again, it's very, as you know, like even before this started, it was important for us to communicate on a global level. But now with COVID, this has been fantastic because we are constantly engaged in talking to whether it's a partner, a former employee, or an independent agent that is booking travel through our company. And the last thing that that screenshot is showing you on how important it was for culture and community within our company is an example of, this was probably 3 years ago, where we had a customer that had booked with Flight Centre that was in South America on a vacation, and that person became extremely ill, and to the point where that person was on death's door. They needed blood donated because where this person was, there was very little blood supply, and they didn't have the kind of blood that particular person needed. And having Workplace and having us on a global level that we could communicate, the consultants in Australia asked for help. It was posted within Australia, and it was shared all over our Workplace instance. So it was shared in the US, it was shared in Europe, it was shared in South Africa. And the end result was, well, thank God the person did live. The person had surgery and the person did live, but it was a very long road. But there were so many people that donated blood to this facility that they had blood for months and months and months after that incident. So it was really unbelievable to watch everybody, just that post came out on Workplace, and everybody was sharing all over the place and just communicating with anybody they know all over the world to try to help this customer. And we do take a little pride in thinking that we did as a company save that person's life, because the outreach and the response was beyond amazing. I mean, there are no words to describe the impact that had, and that just shows the impact that us dealing with Workplace has for us as a global company. It's just that instant communication, and it is constantly being able to speak and get an immediate reaction or help whatever we might need in our communities. Next slide, and over to Nick.
Okay. So yeah, Donna mentioned a couple of things, one of them being our furloughed employees. So Lizzie, the screenshot on the left is actually a bot that was created, and this was done by Olivia and our Australian team. And what the purpose of Lizzie was to really communicate the top 5 questions that are being asked. I think once we moved or opened that Workplace instance and moved a lot of people in there, there was repetitive question and answers going on back and forth with HR teams, probably legal teams, etc. So Lizzie could kind of like sit in front of that. And as you can see from the screenshot, that Lizzie's tone of voice was pretty friendly. informative. She was very helpful and professional, probably more so than a human being. And I don't think the team really actively promoted Lizzie, but approximately, I think 40% of those furloughed staff members interacted with Lizzie, which was actually a big win for us. And they went on to do Claire, the independent consultant, who had a persona that was years in the travel industry, goes for coffee with friends and stuff. And again, that one was pretty successful. It was only to a small number of users, and that was in our independent workplace instance. But as you can tell, it's kind of interactive. You can drill through option or you can pose questions or drill through options and click buttons and maybe get answers to whatever it is you're looking for. They did go a bit further and create an employee recognition bot as well. Colonel Chur, don't know where they get these names from. And again, that was really to encourage our staff to recognize others in line with, I guess, strategic objectives. So bots are really becoming rapidly becoming an extension to our internal teams, and Bot Nano, which is the middle screenshot, that is our solution to contact tracing. So think bars and restaurants, but our offices and shops. And what we did here was we created some functionality where people would get reminders, so that these office dwellers that kept going into shops or our actual offices, and they were then presented with a message from the bot, reminding them whether or not that they checked in or not, or attested to certain policies, and then they could kind of get redirected to somewhere, and we recorded about 15,000 check-ins so far just on that, and I believe about 150 positive COVID-19 cases have been reported through that channel, and so this is massively helping us with complying with government regulations, and Carolyn was great in kind of orchestrating that one. Then the screenshot on the right, which is our indie bot, and this one is this one is technically in 2 instances. So what happens here is we need to sort of disseminate information, and as Donna said, the independents are kind of extensions to our company. They sell our products, and we have, for example, COVID-19 travel advisory data or notices that need to be shared with everyone. So we built this bot to synchronize workplace groups. So we have a very similar group in our internal employee tenant. Whenever something's posted in there, the indie bot will take that information and it'll repost it or shadow post it into the independent tenant. And then we're looking at something possibly for the future around ideation, but yeah, I think that's it. Enough on bots. You can flip the slide, please. Okay. So top tips for keeping hybrid teams engaged. So, well, maintaining community, it's massive. I didn't actually realize how big it was until I came to Flight Centre, because, we'd used tools before in the past like Yammer, but the workplace was on another level with it being obviously, by Facebook and being very familiar. But I think it's massively important to always take the time to stay connected. If you're disconnected, you're likely to miss out on quite a lot of information. Especially now when you're not in the office. And some of that information will be maybe from travel advice to health. Okay, so how to work safely at home, how to do certain living room exercise routines, to money tips, how the economy is affecting us, what are the payments that are available to us during COVID, and how can we be more prepared next time, maybe when the industry dries up, and stuff like I've seen on the Australian groups around socializing cryptocurrencies, and again I think Rocky mentioned that as well, and strategy, big one. How are we faring? Where are we going? And what's going on from your team to all around you, and obviously saving lives, like Donna mentioned. But always look for feedback and welcome open discussion, especially as leaders. And I really believe that this is very difficult to do when you're not in front of people face to face. So the polls, the surveys, the events, the sharing of information. I guess people like it when leaders read their stuff, when they like and comment. I know you feel kind of part of something, like you're contributing. And then the third one is empower all employees to speak what they feel in a safe and supportive environment. So people are people. They like to rant. They also like to be recognized. So trust your staff to talk candidly. Often the best ideas come from open discussion. And then the last one, engage people with technology. You'll be surprised. So we all saw the mass adoption of Zoom, Teams, Work Chat. I think it kind of, I think some services were sort of blown out of the water and couldn't cope initially. But we did some training sessions, awareness. But really we all, most of Flight Centre anyway, grabbed these technologies generally because we had to. I guess it was just quite surprising to see us all migrate that way, a bit like all the beasts, I suppose. Yeah.
That's us, Flight Centre.
I think we're out of slides, so Andrew. Oh, we can't hear you.
There we go. There was a lag. I was waiting for the microphone. I was like, come on, I got us. No, that was awesome. Thank you guys so much. I think you did a better demo than I did. I think we probably could have just skipped my session, and I think I learned more about Workplace through that than them. But look, I think it's a huge testament to how much emphasis you put on every single person inside the organization. I think it's humbling to see all of the work you did with the furloughed teams. I mean, the story around the operation in South America. This stuff's insane. So thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts, both in terms of how you think about your people, but also the workplace partnership. I'm conscious we've gone over a little bit. Thank you so much, everyone who has stayed on. We're going to answer a couple of questions if everyone has still got the time, and Nick and Donna would love you to stick around. So I'm going to choose, there are tons of questions coming in. I'm going to choose a couple. One's quite tactical workplace question, so maybe we'll just do this one first, which is from Jayana, and it's talking about kind of, you guys obviously have thousands and thousands of employees in the organization. Have you found a best way to utilize workplace so that the newsfeed doesn't so that it stays valuable, it doesn't become overwhelming? How do you guys think about that, like where you post stuff, when you use Marcus Important, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So part of that is training, when you are using Workplace. So we have specific groups. We have a lot of groups. I mean, if you look globally, we have probably 500 groups. But so there's maybe, 3 groups globally, maybe 4, that everyone is a party of. And that would be, Screw, who he's the man, he is Flight Centre. So when he talks, and that's like Citizens of the World, things like that, where we're collaborating. So you want to be part of that global community. But then on a regional level, you'll have also the MD, for North America, then you'll have smaller groups. So we have lots of different brands within the business. So then you could be part of the leisure brand. So if you're in the leisure business, you don't need to be part of the corporate group. So having groups that really speak to the different parts of the business, and maybe just a couple that take over all the businesses, is very important. And as far as marking posts important, we do use that, but that is also on a very limited basis, because if you start marking every post important, the posts aren't important anymore and people aren't going to read them. So we do use that feature, but it is important important, so only mark posts that are important, that really are necessary information that people should see, that are important as a whole for the employees to see. So, and training, you can turn off notifications. If you're in a group, you could take yourself out of a group. So that all of that's important when using Workplace to get everybody fully engaged and stay engaged.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. The marketing point is definitely with great power comes great responsibility. Yes. I think there's loads of really good questions. There's another. This is a good one that's just come in from Curti, and this is relevant to what Rocky was talking about earlier. So this talks a little bit about, so what does your company do for mental and emotional well-being for the employees, especially since the travel industry was one of the worst hit and job security was on people's minds? I know we talked a little bit earlier around having kind of the furloughed community within Workplace. Was there anything else outside of that? How are you guys thinking about it?
We do have, we do provide, a Flight Centre provides all of the employees with benefits that they can seek, medical, mental health, which is very important, and it is very important, and they do provide those services. And I could tell you, like on a mental health level, you get 5 free sessions with a mental health provider, and that is very important. So it was very open, it was very talked about, and most certainly our people is one of Flight Centre's most important, and you had mentioned that, Andrew, and noticing it, and that is an extremely important part of our work.
We also have a whole team or brand dedicated to health. They're called HealthWise, and they've been around longer than me. And typically what they will do is put together challenges, events. They will encourage people to eat well or eat the right things, to kind of have fun safely. But yeah, what Donna mentioned as well is there is a party company as well that we partnered with for exactly that, for the mental health side, which I think the HealthWise guys helped to administer.
Awesome stuff. Well, I think we are probably at time. So again, thank you both so much. We really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who has stayed with us this morning. This is probably not the first virtual event that you've been to in the last year. So just to wrap up, a very quick plug. We actually have the second masterclass in our series on May 20th. So that's going to be taking kind of the foundational hybrid teams elements that we looked at today, and then layering that with HR and comms efficiency. So in this hybrid world, how do we think about pivoting and morphing some of the HR policies, procedures, how we communicate, all that good stuff. I'm going to go into some deep dives there with a bunch of awesome folk joining us as well. So again, huge thank you for all of our speakers today, and from the Workplace team, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great rest of the weekend and weekend ahead. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.